I am sitting in a lawyer's office right now holding divorce papers with my wife's signature at the bottom. 3 years ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage with Sarah. We had plans, dreams, a future mapped out together. But everything collapsed the night I discovered the truth about her affair. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I ever imagined possible. What happened after that, though, caught everyone off guard. Sarah thought karma was done with her. She had no idea what I was about to do. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you enjoy real-life stories about betrayal and unexpected justice, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, what happened next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about moving on. Let me take you back to where it all started. Sarah and I had been married for 5 years. We met at the University of Oregon, both studying marketing. Back then, everything felt easy between us. We laughed at the same jokes, finished each other's sentences, and dreamed about building a life together. After graduation, we moved to Portland and bought a small house with a backyard, just big enough for our 2 cats, Max and Luna. I landed a decent job as a marketing manager at a tech company, and Sarah became an event coordinator. Our life was comfortable, predictable, in a good way. I cooked dinner most nights while she told me about the corporate events she organized. On weekends, we watched movies curled up on the couch. We talked about buying a bigger house someday, maybe starting a family. Everything seemed solid. But about 6 months before everything fell apart, I started noticing changes. Small things at first. Sarah began leaving for work earlier than usual and coming home later. She said she was working on a major project, some huge conference her company was planning. I believed her, because why would I not? She was my wife. I trusted her completely. Then her phone habits changed. She started keeping it face down on the table, changed her passcode without telling me. When I asked about it casually, she got defensive, said I was being paranoid. Our weekend date nights became less frequent. She was always too tired, too stressed, too busy. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that once her big project wrapped up, things would go back to normal. One night around 2 a.m, I woke up to use the bathroom. The bedroom was dark, but I noticed the bathroom light was on and heard Sarah's voice. She was whispering, then giggling quietly. I knocked on the door and asked if she was okay. She came out quickly, phone in hand, and said she was just texting with a coworker about last-minute details for an upcoming event. The explanation made sense at the time, but something about her expression seemed off. A tiny seed of doubt planted itself in my mind that night, though I tried my best to ignore it. Then came the Friday that changed everything. Sarah told me she had to fly to Denver for an overnight work trip. She kissed me goodbye that morning, rolling her suitcase out the door. I spent that evening alone, ordering takeout and watching a basketball game. Around 9 p.m, I tried calling her to say goodnight, but she did not pick up. I figured she was busy with client dinners or something. At 11, I got ready for bed. That is when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. The text said, "Thought you should know. Sorry, man." Attached was a photo. My hand started shaking as I opened it. There was Sarah sitting at a bar kissing another man. But here is the thing that made my stomach drop. I recognized that bar. It was in Portland, just 15 minutes from our house. Not Denver, nowhere near Denver. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I called Sarah immediately. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Sent her texts asking where she was. Read. But no response. I must have called 20 times over the next few hours. Finally, around 3 a.m, I heard her car pull into the driveway. I was sitting in the dark living room, still holding my phone with that photo glowing on the screen. She walked in and froze when she saw me there. The smell of alcohol hit me from across the room. I held up my phone without saying a word, just showed her the picture. She stared at it for 5 long seconds, her face going pale even in the dim light. Then she just said, "Okay." Not an apology, not an explanation, just okay. I asked her who he was. She sat down on the chair across from me and told me his name was Derek, a coworker from her department. He was divorced, no kids, and they had been seeing each other for 4 months. 4 months. While I was cooking her dinner and talking about our future, she was building a whole separate life with someone else. I asked her why. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "I did not mean for this to happen, Ethan. Derek understands me in ways you never could." Those words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. The days after that confrontation were a blur. Sarah did not beg for forgiveness or try to fight for our marriage. Her attitude was cold, almost businesslike. She said things like, "Maybe we just grew apart. This is nobody's fault." But it was somebody's fault. It was her fault and Derek's fault. I barely slept that first week. I could not focus at work. My boss noticed and asked if everything was all right. I lied and said I was dealing with a family emergency. Sarah moved her things into the guest room and told me she wanted a divorce as soon as possible. Part of me wanted to fight for us to suggest marriage counseling to do something to save what we had built. So I tried. I said, "We can go to counseling. We can fix this." She shook her head and said flatly, "I do not love you anymore. I love Derek." Hearing her say she loved him was worse than finding out about the affair in the first place. Then I started discovering more evidence of her betrayal. Going through our joint credit card statements, I found charges I had never questioned before but now made horrible sense. A $2,000 watch purchased 3 months ago. Expensive dinners at restaurants we had never been to together. Hotel rooms booked in the city on nights she claimed to be working late. She had been using our money I earned to fund her affair with Derek. The total came to nearly $8,000. $8,000 of our shared savings spent on another man, while I was at home thinking we were building a future together. 2 weeks after the truth came out, I did something I am not particularly proud of, but I needed answers. I found out where Derek worked and waited for him at a coffee shop near his office. When he showed up, I introduced myself. He did not seem surprised or uncomfortable. If anything, he seemed annoyed that I was taking up his time. I kept my voice steady and asked him directly, "Did you know she was married?" He shrugged and said, "Yeah, I knew. But she told me you two were basically done anyway." I told him we were not done, that we were actively married and living together. He just shrugged again and said, "Look, man, I did not force her. She came to me. Maybe you should ask yourself why." Then Derek had the nerve to add, "Sarah deserves someone who can give her excitement, someone who is not stuck in a boring routine." I wanted to punch him right there in that coffee shop. My hands were shaking with rage, but I did not. I stood up, looked him in the eye, and said, "You two deserve each other." Then I walked out. On the drive home, I made a decision. I was not going to let them destroy me. I called a divorce attorney that afternoon. About a month into the divorce proceedings, something unexpected happened. I got a text from Kyle, the guy who had originally sent me the photo of Sarah and Derek. Turns out, Kyle was Derek's younger brother. He wrote, "Thought you should know. Karma is real, dude. Derek got fired." I asked him what happened. Kyle explained that their company had discovered Derek and Sarah's relationship violated internal policy since they worked in the same department, and Derek was technically her senior. Derek was terminated immediately. Sarah was put on probation and given a formal warning. Their affair had cost Derek his career. Kyle told me that Derek was furious and blaming Sarah for everything. Their relationship was falling apart because Derek accused her of ruining his life. I felt a small sense of satisfaction knowing that their betrayal was catching up to them. But honestly, it was not enough. The satisfaction was hollow. I was still hurting, still waking up in the middle of the night, replaying every moment of our marriage and wondering what I had missed. 2 months after our divorce was finalized, I heard through Kyle that Sarah and Derek were officially dating publicly. But their relationship was a disaster. Derek could not find another job. He had been a mid-level manager before, but now his reputation in the industry was damaged. He started drinking heavily and taking his frustrations out on Sarah. Kyle told me that Derek had become bitter and mean, constantly picking fights with Sarah over money. Since Derek was unemployed, Sarah had to cover both of their living expenses. The financial pressure combined with her probation at work was crushing her. She got demoted, lost a major year-end bonus she had been counting on, and eventually had to sell the new car she had bought just 6 months earlier. That car had been purchased partially with money from our joint account money that should have gone toward the house we planned to buy together. Kyle kept me updated, not because I asked him to, but because he felt guilty about his brother's behavior. He would text me every few weeks saying things like, "She looks miserable, man. Derek treats her like trash now." Part of me felt vindicated watching karma work its magic on both of them. But another part of me felt empty. Watching them suffer did not make me feel better. It did not heal the wound Sarah had left. I realized that just waiting for karma to punish her was not enough. I needed to do something for myself. That is when I made my decision, the one everyone later called my shocking move. I had received $35,000 from our divorce settlement, my half of our shared savings after legal fees. I could have spent it on revenge. I could have used that money to expose them publicly, hire someone to dig up more dirt, make their lives even more miserable. But what would that accomplish? It would just make me as bitter and consumed by anger as Derek had become. So instead, I invested that money in something completely different. I invested it in my future and in someone who actually deserved help. First, I enrolled in an online MBA program through the University of Washington. It was something I had always wanted to do but kept putting off because Sarah and I were saving for other things. Now I had nothing holding me back. I hired a personal trainer and started going to the gym 5 days a week, not to impress anyone, but because I needed to feel strong again physically and mentally. I started seeing a therapist once a week to work through the betrayal and learn how to trust again. And I booked a 3-week solo trip to New Zealand, a place Sarah had always dreamed of visiting but we never had the money for. I went without her. I hiked mountains, explored cities, and slowly started to feel like myself again. But the real shocking move, the one that changed everything, involved Kyle. During one of our conversations, he mentioned that he had lost his job around the same time Derek got fired. Their family business had downsized, and Kyle was let go. He was in his final year of college, but could not afford tuition for his last semester. He was thinking about dropping out. Something about his situation struck me. Kyle was the only person in this entire mess who had done the right thing. He could have stayed silent, protected his brother. But instead he told me the truth, even though it cost him his relationship with Derek. That took guts and integrity. So I called Kyle and told him I wanted to help pay for his final semester. He thought I was joking at first. When he realized I was serious, he asked me why. "Why would you help me?" "I am Derek, brother." I told him, "You did the right thing when you told me the truth. You have integrity. That is worth supporting." I sent him $12,000 for his tuition and books. He called me crying, saying nobody had ever believed in him like that. But I did not stop there. I also got him an internship at my company in the marketing department. He was smart, hardworking, and deserved a real chance. 6 months after my trip to New Zealand, my life looked completely different. I graduated from my MBA program with honors. I got promoted at work to senior marketing director, nearly doubling my salary. I had lost 30 pounds and gained muscle. I felt confident in a way I never had before. And I started dating again. Her name was Julia, a 29-year-old graphic designer I met through a mutual friend. She was kind, genuine, and patient with me as I learned to trust again. We took things slow. No rushing, no pressure. Just two people getting to know each other honestly. Then one afternoon my phone rang. It was Sarah. I had not heard her voice in 9 months. She sounded different, smaller somehow. She said, "Hey, Ethan, I saw you got promoted. Congratulations." I kept my voice neutral and asked how she was doing. There was a long pause before she said, "Not great, honestly. Derek and I broke up. He was not the person I thought he was." I told her I was sorry to hear that, and I meant it. Not because I wanted her back, but because I genuinely had moved past the anger. Then she said the words I never expected to hear. "I made a huge mistake, Ethan. I threw away everything we had. Do you think we could ever talk? Maybe grab coffee?" I was quiet for about 3 seconds, thinking about how to respond. Finally, I said, "Sarah, I appreciate you reaching out, but that chapter is closed for me. I have moved on, and I genuinely hope you find what you are looking for." She started crying on the other end of the line. Through her tears, she said, "I understand. I just wanted you to know I am sorry. For everything." I took a deep breath and told her I forgive you. Not for you, but for myself. Take care of yourself, Sarah. Then, I hung up. About an hour later, Kyle called me. He said Sarah had reached out to him asking about me. When she found out I had paid for his education and helped him get a job, she broke down. Kyle told me, she said, "He helped you, even though you are Derek, brother." I cannot believe how selfish I was. Kyle told her, "Ethan is a better person than all of us. He chose kindness over revenge." Hearing that made me realize something important. My shocking move was not about making Sarah feel worse. It was about becoming someone I could respect when I looked in the mirror. A full year after my divorce was finalized, I found myself sitting in my new apartment in downtown Portland. It had floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city lights. Julia was in the kitchen making dinner, humming along to music playing from her phone. We had been dating for 8 months, and for the first time since Sarah, I felt genuinely happy. Not the distracted happiness of someone trying to forget their pain, but real, deep contentment. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The initial devastation when I saw that photo. The anger during the divorce. The hollow satisfaction of watching karma catch up to Sarah and Derek. And finally, the peace that came from choosing to build something better instead of tearing them down further. Kyle had graduated with honors and now worked full-time at my company. We had become genuine friends, grabbing lunch together once a week. He told me that Sarah had moved to California to start over, taking a lower-level position at a new company. She was trying to rebuild her life away from the wreckage of her choices. Derek, from what I heard, was still unemployed and living with his parents. Their relationship had ended badly, with both of them blaming each other for their mutual downfall. I did not take pleasure in their suffering anymore. Honestly, I rarely thought about them at all. What I did think about were the lessons this whole experience had taught me. First, karma is real, but it is not something you should sit around waiting for. Sarah and Derek destroyed their own lives through their choices and dishonesty. But I did not heal by watching them fall apart. I healed by actively building something better for myself. Second, revenge does not actually make you feel better. It just keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. When I chose to help Kyle, instead of hurting Derek, something shifted inside me. I broke free from the cycle of anger and pain. Third, moving forward means actually moving forward, not looking back over your shoulder. When Sarah called wanting to reconnect, I could have gloated or thrown her mistakes in her face. But what would that have accomplished? She already knew what she had lost. I had already moved on. Resentment would have just dragged me back into a place I had worked hard to leave. And finally, I learned that pain can be the catalyst for positive change. If Sarah had never cheated, I might have stayed in my comfortable but stagnant life forever. The betrayal forced me to grow, to push myself to become a better version of who I was. It hurt like nothing else ever had, but it also freed me to become someone stronger. People always ask me if I feel satisfied watching Sarah's life fall apart. The truth is, I stopped caring about her life the moment I started building mine. The shocking move everyone talks about was not revenge. It was choosing to be a better man than the situation demanded. I could have destroyed her reputation, exposed every detail of her affair to mutual friends and family, made her suffer even more than she already was. But what would that have made me? Just another person consumed by bitterness and anger. Instead, I invested in someone who deserved it. I invested in myself. And I found peace in a way I never could have if I had chosen the path of revenge. Karma did its job without any help from me. Sarah lost her relationship, her career advancement, her financial stability, and ultimately her sense of self-worth. Derek lost everything too. But their downfall was not what healed me. What healed me was the conscious choice to redirect my energy toward growth instead of destruction. Every dollar I spent on my education, my health, and helping Kyle was a dollar invested in my future rather than their past. Every hour I spent in therapy, at the gym, or on that trip to New Zealand was an hour I could have wasted plotting revenge. The shocking move was not about punishing Sarah more than karma already had. It was about refusing to let her betrayal define the rest of my story. So if you are going through betrayal right now, If someone you trusted has shattered your heart into pieces, remember this. Revenge might feel good for a moment. Watching them suffer might give you a brief sense of justice. But building a life so beautiful that you do not even think about the past, that is the real victory. That is the shocking move that changes everything. Not because it hurts them more, but because it sets you free. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between revenge and moving forward? How did you handle betrayal in your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Someone who is struggling to move past their own pain. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that no matter how dark things seem, you have the power to create something beautiful from the ashes. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and remember that your best days are still ahead of you.